Assalamu alaikum, dear listeners. I welcome you to this virtual session. And in today's session about literary criticism, I would like to talk about the nature and function of literary criticism. Etymologically, the word criticism is derived from Greek word meaning judgment. It is also the exercise in judgment. Literary criticism is the exercise of judgment on the works of literature to examine the merits and demerits and finally to re-evaluate the artistic worth is the function of criticism. Thus, literary criticism is the study of discussion, evaluation, and interpretation of literature. Here, we analyze, we evaluate, and we see the merits and demerits in that particular selected work of literature. We develop a yardstick, and according to that particular yardstick, we try to judge whether that work follows those standards or falls below those particular standards that are prescribed or described by various literary giants or by various literary analysts. Literary criticism is the evaluation of literary works that includes classification by genre, such as it could be a novel, poetry, drama, fiction, non-fiction, structure, the way it organizes itself, and judgment of value. Literary criticism asks what literature is, what it does, and what it is worth. How would you interpret the definition of literary criticism in your own words? This is what you have to see, that how you think, what you think about literature, and how you think about a certain yardstick or parameter that you have made in your mind to consider a piece of literature worthy of becoming a masterpiece or worthy of being rejected to the work of nothingness. Literary criticism helps readers like you and me interpret the literature we read. Each literary theory provides us with different way of looking at a given literary work, which can ultimately reveal important aspects about it. But what are these important aspects? What are these important factors? Literary criticism helps to understand what is important about a literary text. For example, its structure, its context, social, economical, historical may be included into the area of context, how the text manipulates the readers. So, in short, literary criticism helps us to understand the relationship between authors, readers, and literary texts. The act of literary criticism ultimately enhances the enjoyment of our reading of the literary work. This figure illustrates the link between everything, that how everything revolves around a work of text itself, the life of the author, author's world, other pieces of literature that come into world literature, and then audience, their role when reader response theory is invoked, then the real world where mimesis is involved, or psychological world, and beyond the world itself where symbolic or archetypal approaches are used. And in real world we see that how various underlying social factors such as feminism, minority, marxism, racism could come into the works of literature. So as a whole, our approach towards piece of literature is understood through all the related factors that could include the author's biography, that it could include the work links with the other works, and that could include all the themes, social issues that are being propagated or embedded in that particular work, and also the other factors, other pieces of literature, and other theoretical underpinnings. So, what does literary work mean? The work itself is placed in the center because all approaches must deal to some extent or another with the text itself. Hence, different approaches or lenses help us to discover rich and deeper meaning. Each lens has its strengths and weaknesses. Each lens is valuable. Try to become a pluralist rather than an inflexible supporter of one, because this plurality and this eclectic approach where we are able to see the work of literature from every angle, from every perspective, from every parameter, and those parameters as a whole could help us to develop a holistic approach, and that type of holistic approach will be able to help us understand the work and function of literary criticism. Criticism is the exercise of judgment in the area of art and literature. It is the overall term for studies concerned with defining, analyzing, and evaluating works of literature. It refers to description, analysis, interpretation, and evaluation of literary works. Literary criticism deals with different dimensions of literature. So, in a social context or historical context or philosophical context, we have to see all the aspects related to the work of literature, and those aspects would be able to help us to understand and evaluate and to see the merits of a piece of literary writing. According to Griffith 2002, prior to the 20th century, the investigation of the nature and value of literature has had a long and distinguished history, beginning with Plato and Aristotle and continuing into the modern times, which included other literary figures such as Philip Sidney, John Dryden, Samuel Johnson, William Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Matthew Arnold. So, all these literary analysts, they developed some kind of touchstone methods. They developed some kinds of evaluating criteria which other people used to follow, such as in another session we would see that how Plato and Aristotle, they developed the theory of imitation, and counter imitation was developed by Aristotle, and they developed and saw what a piece of literature could be and what could it not be. And similarly, other people like Philip Sidney talked at length about poetry, and likewise Dryden and Johnson, they also talked about the merits of literature, which we would talk in different sessions in the coming times. So these writers explored what literature is and praised or condemned works that failed to meet whichever standards they deemed essential. In the Republic, to cite one extreme example, Plato condemned all literature because it stirs up the passion, lust, desire, pain, anger rather than nurture the intellect. So, Plato had his own way or his own approach towards any piece of literature where he could uh, see all the unwanted passion. If propagated and if available, then he could condemn that piece of literature, and we would see his approach at length in the coming session, how Plato disregarded some of the pieces of literature in his Republics, and how Aristotle in his Poetics defended what a piece of literature could do and how could it approach towards reality. Next, point number 2 that in this session I'm going to talk about is about principles of criticism. Here are three principles of criticism. First one is matter, second one is manner, and the third one is capacity to please, or having aesthetic sense, or pleasing aesthetic appeals, or appealing to aesthetics, or giving aesthetic pleasure. So first principle of literary criticism is pursuit of truth. The first principle, matter. What kind of matter should there be in a work of literature? So people see whether that work follows truth, as poetic truth is the truth of ideas and experiences of the work of art. The truth of literature is different from the truth of science, poetry. Truth is the ideas and experiences of the work of art. So here in poetry, we see poetic truth is related to ideas and experiences, and scientific truth is related to experimentation, or is related to the work that is done in a lab, or that is conducted or experimented, and after the experimentation someone is able to deduce some kind of ideas or some kind of hypothesis that came to be true or null as the result of those experimentation. The first principle is related to matter, which talks at length about truth. The second principle relates to manner, and that is concerned with the symmetry or construction, how the right selection and arrangement of the material is available in the work of literature, or it fails to follow these particular yardsticks. The principle implies right selection and arrangement. The writer should select certain aspects of reality and not all reality, and then his material should be arranged as to throw the selected aspects of reality into sharp relief. Aristotle stressed on this. In his view, it is essential for that artistic beauty on which the imaginative appeal of literature depends. The critic must examine if the various parts of the composition are originally related to each other or not, whether they are proportionate to each other, or to the composition as a whole. The test of the symmetry is indirectly a means by which the presence of the dominant artistic qualities can be discovered and measured. The third principle is the principle of aesthetics, and that talks about idealization, which implies the artistic or aesthetic beauty consciousness of the reader. The selection made for artistic treatment should be so made unpleasant aspects to the aesthetics consciousness of the reader is kept away and minimalized by the virtue of which a work of art gives pleasure. So in a way, is this type of philosophy talks or takes into consideration the idea of arts for art's sake, where the purpose of art is to provide pleasure and aesthetics, and that is why people enjoy to the listening of music, and especially the sad music. Third point after principles is related to the functions of literary criticism. What are the functions? The function of literary criticism is to examine the merits and demerits or defects of a work of art, and finally to evaluate its worth. the chief function of criticism is to enlighten and simulate, and true critic is the one who is equipped for his her task by a sound knowledge of his subject. That critic can discover the qualities of power, beauty, and depth of significance. He or she can give us a fresh point of view. He or she is sometimes a pathfinder, breaking new grounds with a friendly passion. As such, the primary function of literary criticisms are interpretation and judgment. So, these critics help us to find out the true judgment in the work of literature, having certain qualities and seeing that why those particular qualities have been adopted or they have been sidelined by those particular writers. Another important factor to note is that the view of criticism is directly related to the critic's own intellectual philosophy or outlook of life. It is determined by the likes, dislikes, and prejudices of the critic. He or she, what kind of way or approach do they adopt towards life? If they are pessimistic, then definitely they are going to be extremely critical, and the way they would see or evaluate a work of literature would be full of cynicism. If they are optimistic in life, then they would appreciate and they would highlight all the features that the work of literature follows. So here likes and dislikes, they are extremely important, and they shape the socio-political sensibilities of the critic's environment, and the critic would be the one and who follows his standard knowledge, experience, and exposure in order to direct the audience to see the real essence embedded in that particular work of literature. Fourth topic in this particular lesson that I would like to talk about is the difference between literary criticism and literary theory. Even though modern literary theorizing and criticism emerged during 19th century, both attained great heights in the 20th century. 20th century could be appropriately termed the age of criticism. The richness and complexity of literary theory can be seen in many critical moments that sprang up, and in the enthusiasm with which critics practice the art. The impact of the new psychologies was deeply felt in criticism, and various types, various ideas you could name, such as archetypal criticism, you could talk about eco critical criticism, Marxist criticism, feminist criticism, or post colonial criticism. Various types of criticism emerge depending upon the social issues that the writers or the critics want to highlight in the works of literature. In the preface to A History of Literary Criticism, Jeffers gives no room for any doubt about the kinship of literature, literary criticism, and literary theories. In a way, according to him, all they are alike. The study of literature requires knowledge of context as well as of the text. What kind of person wrote the poem, the play, the novel, or the essay? What forces acted upon them as they wrote? What was the historical, political, philosophical, and economic or cultural background were followed, and so you could see Jeffers was right that any doubt about there is no doubt or no room for any doubt about the kinship, about the connectedness and association of literature, literary criticism, and literary theories. The argument Jeffers put forward is that literature is to be on the course. It becomes experiment that a structure is put in place to reveal its meaning beyond the literal level. Broadly, the text of literature would possess two levels of meaning, the literal and the super meaning. The super literal meaning of the text of literature is the ideological implication of the same, which criticism attempts to resolve. The lack of resolving the crisis engendered in literary text is possible through the formulation of some principles, parameters, and paradigms, which are technically termed theories. Theories are meant to interpret and evaluate works of literature with mind of revealing the in-depth implication of such work. So we can sum up the whole debate that literature came first, and then the standard or analysis of that piece of work came through literary criticism, and later on the developed form of literary criticism emerged in the form of theories, and here some principles or parameters or paradigms technically termed as theories. So theories are more technical oriented in nature, whereas criticism is broader in nature. Thus literary theory and criticism is an unavoidable part of studying literature. Literary theory and criticism aim to explain, entertain, stimulate, and challenge the students of literature. Literary theory and criticism make literature refreshing, informative, and stimulating in many ways. Some of the ways include literary theory and literary criticism help us to achieve a better understanding of literature, a better understanding of the world in which we live automatically comes along when we study literature, and the study of the critical theory makes that enterprise even more productive. So here we can see that how productivity can be measured, explained, and then entertained as well. Literary theory and criticism can only show us the world and ourselves through new and valuable lenses, but also strengthen our ability to think logically, creativity, and with a good deal of insight in analyzing the work of literature. So, what then is the difference between theory and criticism? A theory as a body of rules, principles to apprise works of literature. Literary theories were developed as a means to understand the various ways people read literary texts. All theories are lenses through which we can see text. You cannot say that one is better than the other or that you could read according to any of them. But it is sometimes fun to decide to read a text with one in mind, because you often end up with the whole new perspective or your reading as you read different texts in your literature courses. You will realize that to study literary theory is to seek to understand exactly how readers or critics interpret criticism or criticize text, especially literary ones. Much of the Scholars today would agree that there is no single meaning waiting to be simply found in any text. It is our role as readers to produce meaning. In other words, it is a function of different interpretation or interpretive strategies which we as readers apply to the text. A cardinal rule of modern literary criticism could be summed up as follows: the answers you get from a text depend entirely upon the kind of questions you put to it. So, questions are important. It is the strength of the question that could give you the answer. That is why in modern research we have research questions and research objectives. So, strictly speaking, when we interpret a literary text, we are doing literary criticism. But when we examine the criteria upon which our interpretation rests, we are applying literary theories. In other words, literary criticism is the application of critical theory to a literary text. So, here the real difference can be found in these particular two lines. A literary text we are dealing with, strictly speaking, when we interpret a literary text, we are doing literary criticism. And when we examine the criteria upon which our interpretation rests, we are applying literary theory. Literary theory would be broader in perspective, and criticism would go into application oriented, interpretation oriented, analysis oriented. So, as a whole, we can say that the literary criticism is the application of critical theory to a work of literature. And then we see that whether or not a given critic is aware of the theoretical assumptions informing his or her interpretation. In fact, the widespread recognition that literary criticism cannot be separated from the theoretical assumptions, which is based upon one reason why word criticism is often used if it includes the word theory. So, in today's session, what we talked about various ideas. Those four ideas or those four conceptual things that we talked about is the difference between literary theory and literary criticism. Fourth one was the difference between literary theory and literary criticism, whereas the third one was function of literary criticism, and the second one was related to the principles of criticism, and the first one, the first idea upon which we started debate of this particular session was definition or introduction. So, we talked about nature and function of literary criticism in this session. So, if you have any question, any query related to any idea, you can reach to me in the comment section below. Stay tuned, stay happy and blessed. Make others happy and blessed as well. Have a nice time.